log in and connect. Welcome to our first webinar, part of the webinar three-part series, which will obviously, as you can see on the screen, talk about AI. It is the buzz of the moment. I'm joined by my friend Martin Bourgeois, who will help us navigate through these complex topics. Our first webinar will obviously dwell on the foundations of any AI strategy, and that will be to look at the data strategy. The second one will treat, of course, the AI in itself, and we have exciting insights that we're looking forward to providing you. When that webinar will be rendered available, we will obviously send out a message. And the third one is going to be navigating through the change, preparing people, and our topic there is going to be AI servicing humans. Without any further ado.
Exciting times, eh, Lucie?
I'm sorry?
Exciting times, quite exciting times.
You know, being the geek that I am, AI, as far as I'm concerned, has interesting times ahead of us. I don't see it as a loom and gloom. Both you and I are excited about those times, aren't I?
Yes, absolutely.
So Martin, why don't I let you introduce yourself so we can move into the topics?
Thank you, Lucie. So I actually feel very privileged to join you on this fantastic webinar journey that we're about to embark upon together. What I can actually bring to the table today is pragmatic experience. I'm wearing scars from my well over 25 years of senior management experience in various domains. My specialty these last year and a half have been really about leading the strategic data process automation and AI practice at Talsoms. So I'm very happy to share my knowledge today, my experience. What about yourself, Lucie?
Well, we've worked together many times, haven't we? So we have this great relationship. So I hope that the audience can appreciate the fact that together we form a great combo. My experience has been very much like you, and I've had a lot of digital transformation projects that I've led. I am definitely keen on everything which is related to emerging technologies. I love putting those technologies to the service of enterprises who wish to move forward and to bring them into new horizons. A lot of ERP experience, a lot of international experience as well. And I am so pleased that we'll be working on this AI together.
Excellent.
So now that we've done the introductions, this leads me into introducing Talsom. So Talsom is a business management and advisory firm. We are located in Montreal. We have offices in Paris, and we do have our strategic partner, who is Conseil 2.0. Their specialty, obviously, is in supply chain. So both ourselves and Conseil 2.0 really complement each other. And this is what gives us power in being able to accompany customers through their digital transformation from strategic planning all the way to execution, which includes obviously the project management bit as well as the change management. Great expertise in a variety of sectors and industries. And of course, we have highly skilled professionals. And I think what distinguishes us, and you'll agree with this, Martin, is the fact that our people come from an operational background. So we've walked the talk, we've done the job, and we feel very legit in being able to provide now expertise to companies who may not have had that wide experience in being able to help them see outside of their industry and, of course, bring other relevant industries into the realm of what they're trying to achieve. We are so proud of our B Corp. We've been certified since 2019. It is an endeavor to maintain it, and we were one of the first companies and one first consulting companies to be able to reach that status. And of course, I'm going to close with the other proud element, and that is all our philanthropic and pro bono activities that we do through what we call the Design Thinking Jam. And those of you who are familiar with design thinking, we use that methodology to help companies in resolving problems that they may encounter. And these are companies that we're able to assist not only from the ideation, but we accompany them all the way to the actual realization of whatever solution we can provide to them. More about Talsom, we encourage you to visit our website. and we will have a new look and feel, which will be born in the coming weeks.
Coming soon.
Coming soon, correct. However, the one that is there right now is absolutely still relevant. So we encourage you to go there for more insights. Martin, how exciting. We're here. And
yes.
we will be talking about data strategy, and we purposely use those words to accelerate your AI investments, and we'll let the audience discover why we used those terms.
Before we delve into the core of the topic, being an avid stats enthusiast myself, I thought I would share some, explore different facts and figures, especially related to the topic at hand today. And more recently, obviously, the emergence of AI. Lucie, did you know that more than half of AI projects these days are failures? And it's not due to the technology, but rather due to a lack of addressing either the lack of insufficient data oversight. And in addition to this, 2/3 when the organization, they decide to invest in data governance more specifically, we can expect to see a 60% improvement, 66% improvement in data security when we apply those in practice. 70% tells me that we're really living on the cusp of something major. Organizations embracing next generation AI innovations can expect to see a 70% reduction in technology debt within their tools and systems. Last, recent studies indicate that 95%, almost 100%, Lucie, of data-driven business decisions will have the potential to be automated in the next 18 months or so. Isn't that incredible?
These statistics always have the same effect on me, Martin, which is they're number one, daunting. And we selected these few, but if you obviously go through the net and onto other sites, you will see that all these statistics pretty much say the same thing. Now, beyond the number themselves, I think that what these statistics reveal is the fact that our technological landscape is accelerating at a rhythm where human beings are not able to follow up on. The positive things, that'll be great to move forward quicker, but at the same time, adopting these technologies is daunting. So Martin, why don't you help us unpack what it takes? And the way that you're going to do that is we're going to go through these topics today, which is we'll zoom into the data strategy. We'll give you insight in terms of definition about data. We'll move into what a decision-centric organization is like. And of course, we will reinforce our discourse with use cases, and really, really interesting use cases. And of course, at the end, we'll resume and conclude and say, well, okay, where do we begin? Now that we've given you all this insight, we don't want you to leave this webinar feeling overwhelmed. So Martin, data strategy, few words.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, when you look at what is data strategy, if you either do a Google search or you search your favorite GPT engine, there's several textbook definitions of what a data strategy is. But I thought here I would bring more value to the table by sharing with you what, pragmatically speaking, how we engage our clients and how we formalize what are the critical components of a data strategy. And when you're trying to distill this down as much as possible, a data strategy is basically the highest level of guidance from the management team made available to an organization, focusing on data-related activities, but it's also, and especially important, about mobilizing its resources towards the creation, the utilization, and management of data, with the main and sole objective of transforming raw data into decision supporting information and insights. In other words, it's a game plan that will guide how the organization's resources will acquire, collect, leverage, and protect the organization's data, and indicate what actually do we want to achieve with our data.
Interesting. If we were now to provide the audience with, we call it a playbook, but if we were to demonstrate what that means, if you put everything on paper and if you were to do the academic version of what is data strategy, and we want to unfold it. What would that look like, Martin?
Thanks for asking, Lucie. So there's a very, I would say, comprehensive approach to building, crafting your data strategy. And we call this a playbook. It's a playbook that groups 10 chapters or so. We call these chapters because you do not need to follow a step process from 1 to 10, but rather because we know that our clients are busy running, keeping the lights on, like we like to say in our jargon. You can undertake these chapters at different points in time during your reflection or strategy. But basically, you would want to consider applying this playbook approach. You need to start at the beginning with setting your vision and business goals, but then you're going to have to progress through assessing your current capabilities. You're going to need at some point to determine your level of data maturity. You're going to want to focus on analytics and visualization of data. But you can't forget the people and culture aspect of it, because that's what makes it happen, right? And then ultimately, you're going to want to conclude with figuring out how we would monitor, measure, and assess the progress of the playbook. Very comprehensive, very complete, but it gives a good indication of how deep you can go into designing your data strategy at the end of the day, Lucie. That's how I see it.
My takeaway when I see that is very much like taking a textbook, having to go through the textbook with the key elements of what I need to do to realize a data strategy. But like a textbook, I don't have to follow it in that particular order. So based on what we've experienced, we have hands-on experience with our customers, what would be your summary of the top elements that you need to look at? It doesn't mean discarding the rest. It just means what do you focus on while you keep your eye on your playbook, but what do you focus on?
Yeah, so it's a very good nuance here, Lucie, because when you talk to the CFO of an enterprise, for example, he has a very low threshold to go through the whole playbook. So again, based on experience and how we manage our clients today, to me, you really can't bypass, or you really need to focus on these 5 key elements here. Again, I go back to the vision and mission because I believe that's the most important topic. What you actually want to accomplish with your data. It seems simple, but you cannot imagine how many enterprises and organizations, they don't do that step. You have to describe clearly what your destination will be and what your intentions are with data. That's as simple as that. And then you have to get into how does the organization acquire and manages its data? What data? Where is it going to come from? Are we going to take outside sources, or are we just going to focus on our inside sources, structured, unstructured? And then you'll need to figure out how you will manage the data, your data assets. You can't forget about data architecture and technology, because the tools today will help you get to your destination. And last but not least, how we will govern all of this. So how we will put in practice, how we will put the processes together, the definitions, the policies, the standards, and the measures that will allow the organization to achieve its strategic objectives. It's a nice, a good way, Lucie, that I would describe this is if you start with an idea that data is like pieces of a puzzle. And the data strategy allows you to place all the pieces of that puzzle to form that picture you're trying to put together with the puzzle, so that the organization can answer its questions and make better decisions. So that's a good illustration of how I would visualize what a data strategy is. It helps you put that whole puzzle together.
I completely agree. The element that I will add is this is nothing special, nothing new. Data strategy, we've been talking about that forever. I've done multiple ERP implementations, and I can tell you that those implementations that did have a form of data strategy made the implementations of these ERPs a lot simpler and a lot less complicated. Those who did not, unfortunately, we were trying to pull that together as you're trying to implement a system. So AI, if I were to replace the ERP with the AI, we'll go through the same pains and tribulations if we don't pay attention to how this
Absolutely right.
data needs to be governed, right? So we want to avoid that simply because AI investments are high, so are ERPs, but AI investments are very high, and you can lose yourself in playing with AI without keeping an eye on to where you would like to go. So without any further ado, we've talked a lot about data strategy, and there's one element which always makes these tasks daunting, and that is data. So can you give us a few words about data?
Of course, of course. So actually, what is data? Data is what we essentially mean by that in the business world. It's a factual value that is used for either transformation, calculations, building reasoning, but the main role of it, it's to either describe a state or a quantity, for example. The representation of a value within a program or a system. Data is often coded and describe a raw fact, information about, for example, a quantity, a color, or a statistic. Data can be text, numbers, images, etc. Data can be, at the same time, on one end, qualitative, describing something, the color blue, or it can be quantitative to give a numerical value. But it's important to distinguish, sorry, Lucie, that at its core, data is neither organized nor meaningful on its own if it does not have context or structure around it. In organizations, data reside everywhere across the ecosystem of processes. You mentioned ERP. Processes, transactions, interactions. Data is collected, digested, then talked about as information, which is a set of data organized in a way to explain or describe something. Right?
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more.
So where,
I'm sorry, the challenge in perhaps just a few words, and the challenge that we have now with AI is precisely what you said, is the fact that it needs to tell a story. And up until the time where you had data and you had data lakes and you had people exploiting it and they were telling the story, they could have put their human elements to it. Now with AI, it actually doesn't really yet have a soul. It will interpret. So then again, if your information is of good quality, well, then the outcome is good. And if it's not, well, it's not going to be so good. So this brings the following image, and we giggled about this when we spoke about it, but it brings me to the good old days of the Pac-Man. And I imagine this Pac-Man chewing on all this data, all this information. And if it's bad, it will only lead to bad information. And then again, the human being is going to start debating on whether AI is good or not good, or in fact, it's the data that needs to be, questioned and looked at. So if we feed it with relevant and good data, then obviously we have a happier Pac-Man. So our Pac-Man here is happy. He's glowing. And we've got all this great information that we keep feeding. Because the more you feed into it, the better the information comes and the more insightful it becomes. So in the era of AI, ignoring your data is certainly the number one error one can make.
Absolutely. See, so the image I like to convey to clients again here is, if at your basis, if at the fundamental of it all, if the data that you're leveraging is incomplete or of poor quality, this will almost always lead into what we describe as being a bias of interpretation of your data or erroneous data. Because at the base of AI, everything AI related is data models that we use and leverage. And this bias obviously has a direct impact on the production of, for example, generative models such as, your favorite GPT engine, which is simply what that GPT will help you do is, by way of leveraging reading into the information that it gets from raw data, it's going to reproduce it into its algorithms. So you would have guessed it, good data comes from a well-structured and organized collection of and transformation process that happens way before the generative AI engines are put in place. So that's how I see it. You see in the AI world.
No, absolutely. And the fact that our companies are now moving into more of a decision-centric process and mindset, it becomes even more important And I hope that we're conveying to our audience the fact that the data strategy isn't just a simple activity that you do once. It is something that will feed the company inside out, outside in. So talk to us a little bit about what these organizations look like or do when they move into a decision-centric.
Yeah, and again, stepping away from the theory books and the textbooks, the way, again, we discuss this with our clientele is basically, what does it mean to be decision-centric? It simply means that it's an organization that has the ability to bring people, process, data, and technology together to increase its ability to act and react dynamically to what happens in the marketplace. What it means for an organization to become data-centric, it implies that the data is valued as a unique asset, not an afterthought, Lucie, and therefore treated as such, and a vector of innovation, efficiency, and a competitive advantage as well. A data-centric organization is one that places data at the core of its business operations, decision-making process, and strategic planning. By the way, it's not just an IT project, as it involves most of the organization's resources.
Absolutely, because that's where the information comes from, right? We collect data, and we collect it mainly from the customers, and it's the business people who are speaking to these customers. The IT folks are going to be instrumental in leveraging that gold that they have collected. But essentially, the business needs to be extremely involved. And this is a top-down type of initiative. So your C-level need to be on board. The whole organization needs to be on board. And you said it, people need to be mobilized and believe in it. And then it takes a life of its own. So talk to me a bit about what these decision-centric organizations, what do they do? What do they do well? What did you see?
Yeah, and this is very interesting to share with our audience, Lucie, if I must say so very frankly. And first of all, this approach differs from more traditional models where data usually plays a supporting role, and it's not central to the mission and vision of the organization. What I have seen with my clients and organizations that do well, first of all, they're going to invest in the latest data technologies. They're going to invest in, for example, investing in a lake house. They're going to invest in analytical tools, artificial intelligence. They're going to do their damn best to hire skilled data professionals. If they don't have data professionals, they're going to make sure that they upskill their folks so that they feel comfortable operating in such an environment. Organizations of that magnitude will have robust data governance frameworks in place to ensure that the data is of quality, integrity, and security. Data, this is a very important point, Lucie, and it's a cultural expectation that must not be underestimated. Data is accessible to all employees across all the different levels of the organization, and empowering them to make data-driven decisions. All the tools, all the platforms that support data availability is made available so that every non-technical user can understand what is going on within the organization. So don't get me wrong, these organizations, they have bold objectives, but they operate at the use case level, one
Correct.
step at a time, with often a mindset of either prototyping or introducing MVPs before they decide to scale at the larger level, which prompts the mindset of incremental, continuous improvement, forward changes of that sort. That's what I see in those types of enterprises, Lucie.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the audience members who are saying, oh yeah, but these companies that do that very well are large and have definitely the ability, financial ability to be able to do it, because when we say things like this, what comes to mind are the Walmarts, are the Coca-Cola, or all these great big companies. Obviously, they're able to do that and do it very well. They should be models for the smaller enterprises, which obviously are not of that magnitude. However, I think that what they have managed to do, and obviously it's in the background, we don't see this, and that is think holistically and act small, but act. So blocking AI, pretending that it doesn't exist, hoping that it's going to go away, was a little bit the attitude that some people adopted when the internet came on board, and guess what? It didn't go away. It's there. And now we have better technologies, which obviously is able to leverage on that. So think holistically, act small is our credo, is what we're professing. And we're going to be sharing with the audience now a couple of use cases that we have experienced and we're experiencing, in just to illustrate a little bit the fact that you don't need to have that whole playbook done. You can take it in small chunks and you're able to progress. So why don't we go into the use cases?
Thank you, Lucie. And if there's something to take away from this representation of decision-centric, is you don't need to be a Starbucks or Coca-Cola or an IKEA to make it happen. We have in fact, if you're smaller, you're more inclined to mobilize more resources towards that common goal. And that's what I'm going to illustrate here with a few examples. So one use case, one client of ours that we've been working with very recently, I call this use case, same question, 3 different answers. So this client of ours, an international manufacturer of consumer products, right in the middle of an ERP transformation, and they're about to mobilize their people and to focus on implementing a new ERP system. And the CFO approached us, and he was puzzled and mind-boggled. And he came to me and goes, Martin, tell me something. Have you ever encountered something of such that you go to 3 different department heads, you ask the same question, and you get 3 different answers? That's crazy. Can you help us figure out what's wrong with how we operate today? So in this case, the main issues that we uncovered with them is the notion of having multiple different sources of information means that you're not organized in a way to answer your core business questions. So how we were able to help them. So we helped them put together, first of all, a data strategy, a very pragmatic data strategy, which included defining key objectives, what questions are we trying to solve for, what are the main data sources, measures of success, and how the data will flow through your value chain. But the most important component we introduced was the notion of a data governance framework with clearly defined roles and responsibilities, integrated data flows, and common definitions and lineage of their data assets. The result is, although they're still working through their ERP transformation, most of the resources are now mobilized in a clear direction and with common objectives to answer those business questions. We are also seeing dramatic improvements in data accuracy across the entire value chain. And plus, as a bonus, they now have the ability to have enhanced analytics capabilities within their visualization platform. So that's one example.
Excellent. So your CFO no longer is mind-boggled. He kind of understands now where things were not going well. And he must have been very relieved and had better sleep nights in knowing that his situation was going to improve.
Yes. Now he's asking us more questions. We have more work coming our way. So thankfully to this. So yes,
I could imagine. Experience. I could imagine. Can I maybe just put a little parenthesis, because we've said the word data governance many times. I think we need to emphasize the fact that within the data governance aspects, we also need to make sure that we've got the security well packed. So the infrastructure is one thing, but you need to have security, because as soon as you start to gather all of your vital assets, which is your data, you need to make sure that you have a cybersecurity strategy also in place. So we didn't want to confuse the 2 topics, but in the word governance, I don't want people to take away that this is just people sitting around defining who does what, and it's a little racy. It's much wider than that.
Of course.
And the security needs to be the #1 concern for everybody today.
Security and privacy.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the second use case.
So the second use case is a very topical one again. So I call this one ready for AI or not. Again, following the speed at which, the velocity at which the generative AI models have been introduced into our daily lives, have prompted different types of reactions from business owners. In this case, this client of ours was seriously concerned about the potential confidential information sharing breaches from employees leveraging ChatGPT to do their daily tasks. So their first reaction, what was it, you think, Lucie? What did they do as a first reaction?
Surprising.
They blocked the access to using ChatGPT. So although this can work for a couple of weeks, it's just a question of time before people are going to find different ways to leverage their favorite GPT tool. So knowing that this decision could only be temporary, they hired us to help them set the right foundation to introduce AI in a secure and structured manner so that they could minimize the risk and leverage its fullest potential. So what were the main issues here? Decided how to use AI. So what use cases, what questions are we trying to solve for? Again, in this case, no data governance framework in place. So they were really concerned about who was using what. So, and not focusing enough on people and adoption. Their only focus was about the tool and the technology, where the main focus should have been people and how they want to leverage the tool. So how were we able to help them out? So first of all, we obviously worked on setting up solid foundations which begins with governance including security, privacy, all these fundamental components that enable the right way to acquire, manage, and exploit the data in an AI environment. Second, we actually help them develop their proprietary GPT because we have this capability at Talsoms in a completely contained and secure data environment. Very important here.
Essential.
And last but not least, we created a culture of adoption and innovation to improve the daily lives of individuals at work. Because at the end of the day, AI is a very positive moment in time for our knowledge workers in the workspace these days. So the result, culture of innovation where new use cases leveraging AI are discussed every day, actually. And these is actually embedded within their culture these days.
And we'll be sharing more about that in the second webinar. We'll be drilling into the AI, the fundamentals, and of course the happy things that will come out of that. Your third use, I cannot wait. So far, it's been exciting. Your third use case?
Third use case, I call this one straight into execution, but forgot one essential component. So this client of ours, a major player in the communications industry, decided one day that they had enough resources to invest in data science, analytics, and the technology aspect of it. From day one, they proclaimed themselves as being data-driven. They had invested in all the latest business applications, data lakes, data lakehouse, analytics platform. They had hired several dozens of specialists, from data engineers to analysts. After several months, they were really questioning themselves on had they made the right. They had invested millions of dollars, and they were, I would say, they were a bit underwhelmed with the output of all the ROI wasn't that
the benefits weren't there.
No. And they were wondering if they had made the right business decision, as no real insights from their perspective were produced, besides the usual reporting results from previous periods, for example. Should all of these be automated instead and just forget about that whole notion of being data-driven? So what were the main issues here at hand? Again, they forgot the critical component of what business questions do we need answers to with the help of data. They had no strategy, therefore no direction. People were working on, the topic of the day or the flavor of the day, the flavor of the week.
The moment.
Of the moment. And not having a data strategy is very hard to engage your folks. It's really hard to engage people besides your AI team or your data scientist. In order for a data strategy to work, you need to engage all the folks across the organization, business process people especially. So how were we able to help them? We helped them create, obviously, a data strategy that connects actually with the business strategy. So you can't just create a data strategy on its own. You need to connect with your business objectives, your mission, and your values. We also help them organize and prioritize the critical business questions requiring insights and analytics, right? And we created the roles of data owners and data stewardships across different functions. You own the process, you own the data that goes with it, you are able to explain what's going on. The result, this organization now looks at things on a by use case perspective instead of trying to uncover the secret of the gold rush, right? They are ready to invest in advanced analytics. Advanced analytics these days enable organizations to use predictive insights, have prescribed recommendations coming from these advanced tools, and obviously they're ready for AI capabilities. That's the main result of this third use case, Lucie. What do you think about that one?
This one I love. This one I love, and I'll explain why I love this one more than the others. They all demonstrate the same thing, which is we are able to start small and have a more holistic approach to it and succeed, and we do baby steps and we get to a final destination. But I think that this one in particular, you can tell that this company must have had the financial means to be able to do and to go ahead, enjoy, get the latest gadgets. However, some of the components weren't there. So it's not because you've got all the gadgets and the gadgets in place that it's actually going to yield anything more. There are fundamentals, and this is why we called it our a playbook, because what we want to instill in the companies that we accompany is that this is a journey. This is not a destination that you need to reach within one day, and throwing data scientists and throwing technology at this is not necessarily the right answer, at least not at the offset. So this one demonstrates clearly what we've been proclaiming up until now, which is think holistically, act small, make sure you know why you're doing what you're doing, and of course, love the fact that you need to engage the entire company. So this becomes a real important cultural aspect of the enterprise. So now that we've shared all of that, and we've got more use cases we could have chosen from, but these three I think mark it. Martin, in all of the things that we've said to all our good folks on the call with us, we don't want them to walk away from this being overwhelmed. Certainly not. We hope that we'll have communicated to them a pragmatic approach, and that you were able to accompany these enterprises and being able to leverage what they already had. So, if you were to sum up, where do we begin? So, what's the speed dating version of this?
Wait, Lucie, I have a slide for that. So here at Talsom, we strongly recommend beginning your data strategy journey with a structured approach, but knowing that your ecosystem is not going to wait for you to solve your data strategy. So you have to be able to, what's your saying, Lucie, to walk and chew gum at the same time? So our approach is really to focus, learn, and grow. So what does it mean? It's really a two-phased approach where on your first phase, we spend time and we invest into establishing a solid foundation. Within that solid foundation, you will have all your strategic reflection, the ascertaining your data capabilities, putting together the governance structure, defining and structuring your use cases that you would want to explore with AI technology or advanced analytics, for example. This is a structured and constructive approach. The yield of this, so what's really positive about this is it sets your secure boundaries, you involve your key folks into this process, and it shows, it increases the confidence level of your entire organization towards its ability to move on to phase two. Phase two is about enabling that innovation cycle where within a collaborative environment, you start to create use cases that are within that next generation technology, such as AI, generative tools. So you create, you test. If there's proof of value, success. If not, you kill it, and then you start again until you've put together in place use cases that provide value for its employees and colleagues at work. So that's what we propose at Talsom, and that's how we engage our clients.
It's reassuring. At least I find it very, very reassuring in the sense that we've been able to accompany customers who had absolutely no data strategy and no data whatsoever in place, other than just collecting raw data. And you've actually accompanied them in such a way where they're continuing to come back and to ask us to continue to help them. We enjoy helping our customers and also becoming autonomous. So what we're hoping to do is, through your interventions, showing them the way so that eventually they're able to do this on their own, because it's a long journey, and we don't necessarily want to stay them for 20, 30 years. We'd like to be able to obviously help them and then obviously move on and provide even better services as they progress. I don't know if this is a good time for questions. Thomas, do we have anybody in the audience who's asking or asked questions to which we can answer? We can take one or two.
It doesn't seem like we have any questions for the moment.
Okay, all right. Maybe our audience is a little shy. And that's okay. You can continue to ask questions even though we'll be off air, and we'll take those questions and obviously we'll provide answers. So in closing, before we let you run to your next series of activities, perhaps closing and the fact that we'd like to remind everybody that starting this journey is sometimes daunting, as would be hiking, for example, in the Himalaya. You wouldn't do that without having figured out what to do first, and you certainly don't do that without being properly equipped. I certainly wouldn't do it on my own. I would certainly go and look for a coach who's done it before, and I'll follow him or her. So here are the key messages. We're so thrilled to help our customers navigate through this complex landscape. If you would like to pursue this conversation with Martin and myself, happy to do so. You've got a QR code. Please scan it, and that will bring you into my agenda. Book a 30-minute meeting, and we'll be happy to share coffee, tea, water, whatever makes you happy, so we could have a discussion and see what we can do to leverage your already ongoing activities and or start you on your activities.
We will make ourselves available for you to have a positive environment to embark upon your AI journey.
And a positive experience, of course.
Yes.
So the next webinar, just as a reminder, so we've covered the first, but the next webinar is going to be on AI itself, of course, and then the next one will be people and AI. Thomas, I've tried buying you some time to see if maybe there were some questions that would be rolling up. Any questions?
I think people are too shy.
Okay, excellent. That's fine. That's fine. Like it could have maybe been overwhelming as well. I'm going to thank you, Martin, wholeheartedly for this experience. It was fun preparing. It was fun delivering it with you. Can't wait to do the second one. Appreciate the time that you've handed us. Thomas, thank you for the logistical aspects, and we wish our audience a happy journey into your data strategy.
Thank you, everyone.